Shakyamuni Buddha. Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for joining me and everyone else on the interwebs for our Sunday service. Before we get started, please join me in invoking our teacher's name 3 times. Namo Shakyamuni Buddha. Namo Shakyamuni Buddha. Namo Shakyamuni Buddha. Alrighty, so today we're going to be talking about symbolism, and go over some of the symbols we often see in Buddhism and at temples. So I've put them into 3 categories I would speak on today. So we'd be speaking about statues, about symbols, and rituals. So that way it'll make it a little bit easier for me, mostly, and everybody else to kind of go through things. So most of what I'm going to be discussing or defining, I guess, and explaining is going to be more focused on the Mahayana side of Buddhism versus the Theravada and Tibetan Buddhism. Tibetan Buddhism probably has the most symbology out of every other tradition, school of Buddhism. They use symbols quite often for different ceremonies and rituals and daily services. But in most other Mahayana traditions, they share a pretty common small array of symbols. So I'll try to go over some of those today. If I've missed anything that you may have seen or question about or have questions about, feel free to email us or email me through our page on Facebook or through the website. Alrighty, so statues. So statues is our first category today. So statues are pretty common, obviously, in almost every Buddhist temple. The construction of Buddhist statues actually didn't start until several hundred years after the Buddha's death. But all Buddha statues are designed and shaped around the 32 features or characteristics that define a Buddha or symbolize a Buddha. So it just kind of covers different things like eye shape and color of the skin and the hair and just everything else, right? But statues are pretty common, again, in every temple. So usually in most Theravada temples, we'll only see just the one statue of the Buddha and maybe of some of his disciples at their main shrine or in their main shrine hall. Otherwise, we don't typically see other statues. Maybe we'll see statues of the Buddha on his deathbed, so he'd be lying down with his arm up. But Theravada, because Theravada don't believe in all the other celestial Buddhas and the Bodhisattvas, so you don't typically see very many statues in Theravada temples, mostly just of Shakyamuni Buddha or Gautama Buddha in the Theravada shrine. Now in Mahayana temples, most temples do have multiple statues at their main shrine. Usually they'll have the one main Buddha statue like we have here behind us, and then they'll typically have 2 bodhisattvas on either side. Depending on the tradition of the temple, we may see either Samantabhadra and Manjushri bodhisattvas on either side, or we'll see Avalokiteshvara and Kshitigarbha on either side. So for us, we have Kshitigarbha, or Earth Store Bodhisattva, and then we have Bodhidharma, which is the Zen patriarch, Buddhist monk. And then usually we'll also have the 2 Deva guardian bodhisattvas towards the back side of our temple. So we have one on either side. Sometimes they'll be inside the temple, sometimes they'll be right at the door or outside. But these Deva Bodhisattvas, Deva guardian Bodhisattvas, are really Dharma protectors, right? And so in most cases, one of the statues, they look pretty fierce, they look mean looking, ready to attack, while the other is a little bit more handsome in style and more kind of calm. So the symbolism behind that, behind the Deva guardian Bodhisattvas, is that the mean looking one kind of deters and scares off the bad people, and then the other one kind of invites everyone in, right? But there are some Buddhist temples that don't have any statues at all, right? They'll maybe have like a symbol or a very small Buddha statue, because statues themselves don't necessarily mean much, right? There's no power or meaning in and of itself. It's there to help give us focus. It's there to help us remind ourselves of the practice of the path that we're on, and to remind us of the characteristics that create that bodhisattva or the Buddha. And so when we see the Buddha statue, right, and we are there doing our service or whatever, right, we are just trying to emulate the characteristics of the Buddha, right? We're trying to emulate and cultivate within ourselves that love and compassion and equanimity and the wisdom that the Buddha and the bodhisattvas have. And it's the same thing with all the other bodhisattvas. Most bodhisattvas have a few distinct characteristics that identify them among the other bodhisattvas, right? So Avalokiteshvara Bodhisattva is a bodhisattva of compassion. Manjushri Bodhisattva is a bodhisattva of wisdom. So each bodhisattva has kind of a distinct characteristic for themselves. So when we see that statue, it helps bring to mind the characteristics that bodhisattva is about, so that we can develop and create those common qualities within ourselves. But there's no reason to have statues, really. We can still be a Buddhist temple without the statues. The statues are just there to help us, give us a visual guide, a visual kind of help when it comes to helping us recall those qualities of the Buddhas and Bodhisattvas. So that's not much more than that for the the statues. So, and I've already discussed some of the qualities, some of the reasons behind it in Bodhisattva statues. So that's that for the statues. Our next category are symbols. So there's many symbols that we see, right? I think one of the most famous and also controversial symbol, it's the swastika. So the swastika is a very ancient symbol. It predates Buddhism. It predates Christianity and other religions. But it has been used in Christianity. It has been used in Buddhism and Hinduism and Jainism. A lot of the ancient churches, Catholic churches, have used the swastika symbol, right? We see that on a lot of the Buddha statues, either on the chest or on the palms of the Buddhas. It's used in Hindu temples as well. And even in Islam and Jainism, it's been used, right? So it's a pretty universal symbol for a lot of religions. It's even found in like religious sites all across Europe, especially in Germany, and just around Europe in general. So it's portrayed in different ways, right? Sometimes we'll see it with dots or with lines or curved lines, but the swastika itself is a holy symbol. It really just means good fortune or good luck, right?